And in the ongoing Russia investigation, details are emerging from fired FBI Director James Comey's new book and his scathing views of the president.
The GOP preparing an extensive campaign to discredit fired FBI Director Jim Comey as he embarks on his media tour for his tell-all book.
The Devil's Advocate podcast is an opinion talk show and is the attempt of a few friends to have a reasonable conversation about current events without the vitriol that we've become accustomed to in today's modern political climate. TDAP is what happens when a few normal people sit down and discuss the week's top stories by having a rational and somewhat entertaining conversation. The goal of TDAP is to provide a forum for the listener to hear multiple perspectives on a myriad of topics, instead of being bombarded with the same one-sided debates that we commonly get from news and media organizations. It is hosted by Brandon Condict, Mitchell Hernandez, and Franklin Everhart.
President Trump was very much on offense in that phone interview with Fox and Friends, and he again went after Jim Comey and the Justice Department.
This is a big mistake, this book. He is guilty of crimes. And if we had a Justice Department that was doing their job, instead of spending
It's your Justice Department, Mr. President. Mr. President, you're the Republican in charge. You've got a Republican candidate.
What I answer this all the time. What he did, Brian, was terrible. He leaked classified information in order to try and get a special counsel.
He says it wasn't classified, Mr. President.
Alrighty, Dappers. Welcome to episode 50. Milestone!
Yeah, 50.
Party! Finally did it. The reason that these last couple episodes have been so untimely is because I'm fucking dying. So I don't know what's going on. 3.5 weeks of just like puking and being incredibly sick. Like it's been horrible for me. So I apologize for the for the lateness of these last couple episodes.
I know, what the fuck, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm a bastard.
Nobody dies but you. Come on.
I've been saying that for years.
Right. Something that I am gonna tease at the start of the show is that at the end of the show we've got an awesome announcement that I'm really excited to make. So definitely, if you get annoyed with us through this episode, just fast forward because the announcement's worth it. So anyway, as Frank and I discussed on episode 49, that we've been reading the Comey book, and so we wanted to to take an opportunity to review this, especially since I think the three of us all feel like the media has not done justice to this book in their description
Not
of
at
it.
all. Not
James
at
Comey
all.
James Comey also hasn't done a ton of justice in his interviews in the last couple of weeks, but that's because
there's only so much. Yeah, he's only so much he can do about the questions being asked about him.
Well,
that's
and
to the reporters.
And that's kind of my point too, is that the media is just focusing on this specific set of questions, so it makes it feel like the book is about something that it's not. And I think one of the things that I've been most passionately upset about on social media over the past couple weeks since the book dropped is how many people clearly have not read a single page of it and have determined what it's about. And I know
one way or the other, they're already deciding like, oh, it either is a total assassination of Trump or it completely exonerates Trump, and it just doesn't.
Right.
Fuck Comey, he's the leaker. So let's get
into.
And the thing is,
it's not about Trump. Like two chapters of 14 are about Trump. So
let's get into spoilers here and get into what actually is in the book, because this actually, I was pretty impressed with it. I think that if I had to give it my overall rating right off the bat, I would give it a highly deserved 8.5 out of 10. There wasn't a lot in this book I didn't like, and most of all being that James Comey's got style. And
dude, he's a fantastic writer.
He clearly does. Yes.
Like, he totally missed his fucking calling. I've been joking with both of you guys, because if people have been listening to the show for a while, they know that we're Game of Thrones nerds. And because George R.R. Martin can't get his head out of his own ass, James Comey should just finish the goddamn series. Like, come on, let's
as soon
do
as
it.
as soon as we said that, then George R.R. Martin came out and was like, I finished a book. It's not Winds of Winter. We're like, oh, I hate you.
Right.
Get the fuck out of here.
So let's dive into this Comey thing. I admittedly have not finished it. I know both of you guys have finished
finished it 10 minutes ago. And
there you go.
Yeah. But
I finished it like 2 days after it came out. I could not put it down.
Yes,
Yeah,
to me,
I thought it was, like Mitch said, it's very captivating.
it is captivating. We'll get into a little bit more of it here in a moment. I thought the tone was a little uneven, but starting right off from the beginning, because I can't think of a better way for this book to start off. Chapter 1, Ramsey Rapist. It's fucked.
Yeah.
James Comey,
Yeah.
a young 17-year-old James Comey, face-to-face with the Ramsey Rapist. And from right off the bat, it grips you with his description of his home, with his description of the Ramsey Rapist, of his brother, how heroic he was, and it's just really fucking compelling. And right off the bat, I realized that this was going to be
it's kind of
really
so
cool.
it's kind of it sets up the reason he wanted to go into the law enforcement as a thing. Now, like, had Stephen King broken into his home, do you think he would have been on to become a great writer?
I don't know, maybe. Yeah, because he's clearly got the talent for it.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
definitely does. And I love that the audio version of the book is narrated by him. This unlike Hillary Clinton's book, like, listening to James Comey read his book is unbelievably intriguing. Like,
which is kind of funny.
You believe
because
it. You believe every word.
Yeah, I mean, he's the director of the FBI, who was kind of like, in his own words, saying, I stay out of everything. We're supposed to be in the background, nonpartisan. That's what we do. And then you have Hillary Clinton, who's like in the media focus entirely, and he just blows her away, both in narration and in content.
Yeah, absolutely.
He missed his
In
calling.
insight, I mean,
Yeah.
he has more insight into politics than most politicians do.
Yeah. Now,
Right.
see, that's where I thought that the first part of this book reads almost like a crime novel. Like, it's almost like you go into the mystery with the Ramsey Rapist, and then boom, dude, you're
Now, Mitch,
Go ahead.
did it seem to you like he was writing his autobiography a long time ago, and then the Trump thing just kind of was like, that's the perfect ending. I'll publish it now.
it seems like
so
he
little of
knew
it is
this.
about Trump.
Yeah, it seemed like he knew that he was going to be writing about the Ramsey Rapist as soon as that shit went down, and then especially when he starts talking about the mafia. Go ahead.
Let's go through the highlights because the way I want to do this, especially because of the format of our show. I would like to get
Heavy spoilers if you haven't noticed, by the way.
I would yeah, no shit. I would like to get
way to tell people when it's important.
Yeah.
I would like to get each of your perspectives or your highlights and lowlights of the book separately, so that because Mitch, you're admittedly a more conservative or Republican thinker. Frank, you are the opposite of that. You would call yourself a liberal independent, probably. And I just call myself independent as fuck. So
I just call you both wrong.
I know.
I love how you label me and then just steamroll past it, so I can't argue or correct you. Like, I agree now.
Rise above the label.
Right.
Just rise above.
I'll pass it off to Mitch first. Actually, since I steamrolled Frank, I'll pass it off to Frank first. What are your highlights and lowlights of this book? How did the way that you took this all in? How did this book go for you? I know obviously we've kind of glossed over it, but specific instances in the book, specific stories. Go ahead.
I really loved it, and like Mitch said, it starts off with a bang. It starts off with like this incredibly personal story that sets up his entire career
and really shows
what
his
cowardice, his life purpose.
And I think that was important.
Well, yeah, and he even admits to that. A lot of the book is him admitting to his own faults.
Well, I think that helps drive
his
character development. He very much is a character of this book, and to show like this is where I started. These are the examples that were set for me, which set me down the path that led to my decisions. I don't want to take your spot there, but that's something that
Oh no, not at all.
Really,
like I totally agree.
yeah, really
and then
stood out to me.
even later on, dealing with the mafia, like you said in the next the chapter, all about him, dealing with is it La Cosa? No, how do you
La
pronounce
Cosa
that? Do
Nostra?
you remember the term they
Yep.
used? Yes, this thing of ours.
Yep.
Like even dealing with that, it all paints this narrative that is building towards this climax of dealing with
And these
Trump
are names
eventually.
that
My favorite parts of the
Yeah, these are names that I've
What's that?
known about. Like, I'm a big Sopranos guy. I like gangster movies and all that.
Yeah.
Lucky Luciano and all that shit. I'm just like, holy shit, dude. Like, he was with these dudes. He's eating his pasta. Like,
Dude,
this
that's
is
my
not only
that
that,
is-
but like
I swear to God, that's my favorite line of the book. That so far where I'm at in the book, which is about halfway. That is my favorite line in the entire thing. Because he talks about when they're doing this investigation of the mafia, they go to Italy and they're sitting down with like the head of the Italian mafia, and he says that I'm going to paraphrase this quote here, but he says basically that evil has an ordinary face. It laughs, it cries, it gets frustrated, and it makes good pasta. And I just think, like, as a writer, that's such a brilliant, that's such a good way to write that line. And
I know. And
really
ironically
everything.
enough,
he has a lot of great.
because I was listening.
He has
to,
a lot of great lines like that.
He does. That's still my
At one
favorite.
point, he compares he talks about the reservoir of trust the FBI has built up as a public institution, and how a reservoir is something that has to be added to. It can only be built up over a great time and effort, but it can be drained with a single leak or a single fault.
Right.
And I thought that was like a perfect analogy to not only that institution, but any institution that we rely on or give,
right.
that we respect. Like the dude, like I would have loved to have seen one of his speeches live to the new recruits, because the way he it seems like a very movie moment.
Yeah, he
where
does.
guys gives like a poignant speech that exactly lays out a linear path for all the new recruits to follow.
Yeah, except for that last one that was described very awkwardly. Where he's just like,
Yeah.
are they joking with me? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, kind of harsh.
I will say,
He really.
I will say
Yeah, go
too,
ahead.
to your earlier point, Mitch, the way that he kind of because he has the author's note in the beginning of the book, and you said that in that's where he talks about he tries to stay out of things and he tries to not be political, and that's kind of the comparison that we made between him and Hillary Clinton. But what I like about that author's note too is that he very much admits that I'm a flawed person. I've made mistakes. I
he
do
specifically
things.
points out his ego. He says, I have a
Right.
big ego, and that's something I've had to try to keep in check. And
Right.
I do think that things like that do play into his decision to hand over the memos instead of, doing it himself, leaking it the way that he did. Or the way that he responds to some people, like whenever he responded back to Trump, when it was oh, we've got video recordings. Oh, really?
Right.
Him wanting to
Yeah.
respond. And he does a good job of demonstrating throughout the book without making it sound like he's, the greatest person ever, saying, I did demonstrate restraint often. There were some times where I couldn't. And I knew...
Yeah.
Yes.
Like one was when he was calling up to the George W. Bush's chief of staff and saying, I will not meet with you given what I've just seen in private. Like you were going and doing that, where he was like, I decided to be nasty to him. And the guy comes out and was like, I've reviewed these laws and, I think they're great. And he was like, well, no good lawyer would have reviewed it. So he's got that streak to him. He can give it back. He's not always doing the right thing, but he admits it and he says hey, I'm not perfect. I thought those were the parts of the book that really worked to me. I'll let Frank finish up if you got anything more to add on your part.
The only thing, I agreed with most of what he said. I like Comey as a person. I find him endlessly fascinating, but I don't agree with him 100%.
Right.
He talks about disagreeing with Obama. Obama talks to him about the problem with mass incarceration among our black citizens, and Comey kind of essentially just writes it off. He says there's nothing mass about it. He doesn't like that term because it implies it all happens overnight, the rounding up of the Holocaust. I disagree with that. I think mass just refers to a mass number of people that in this case are a statistical anomaly.
See, I did agree with
I think
his,
he sometimes
description there.
because he's very much he almost like paints a very like sympathetic portrait to the protesters at some points, and then he has a very hardline stance against like times like that.
Did anyone else
that I did disagree with him?
Could anyone else just like picture the boner that he had anytime he was talking about Obama? Because he just
oh yeah,
he was just like
the only person that got like overwhelming praise.
He was
in
like
the book
he just
listens.
He just listens so good. He's such a good listener.
It sounded like they were on a date. Like oh my god, I met this guy and he was so wonderful.
I just can't believe it. Yeah, he like really went out of his way to gush about Obama whenever he brought him up. Every time.
The opposite, the exact opposite of that. The chapter where he talks about the son he had who died.
Yeah.
Is heartbreaking.
That is,
dude.
Yeah, that's like I think that's like chapter 4 or something like that, which is just insane.
Yeah, I told Brandon as a new father. I told Brandon I was like, as a new father, you're gonna want to skip chapter 4, dude. I don't think you want to read that.
I stoically stood in my kitchen with tears streaming down my face and was just like, God damn it, James Comey.
Oh, you know what's worse? Listening to the audiobook because he reads it himself and he's still getting choked up after, it's, I don't know how, I think 20 years.
Yeah. It's just,
I know his daughters are married now, so.
Yeah. And they were, I think, 7 and 8 whenever it happened.
But I think
five and 7 because he had explained to them what was happening, which is like makes it harder.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that these stories that you guys are talking about, the Obama years and the Bush years, and his personal stories about the Ramsey rapists and
the Martha Stewart,
right? What's great?
Let's not forget he arrested Martha Stewart.
Yeah, that's like his first.
What I think
story.
is. What I think is great and unfortunate about this book is A, that this is the story of his life, and B, that the media is only focusing on those 2 damn Trump chapters, and so it makes it so everybody thinks that this book is about Trump, and it's a tell-all about him getting fired, but it's really not. So I want to give Mitch the floor for a second and tell me your highlights and lowlights, and then we'll kind of after we get through that, we'll discuss, and then I want to kind of get your opinions on James Comey overall, because I feel like for the 3 of us, we probably have had some changes in the way that we think about James Comey as opposed to how we've talked about him for the year and a half that we've been doing the show. So,
right, because we've been kind of outside of we've only had the sound bites to go off.
Right.
And
so
it changes
and the
things.
testimony.
And as he puts it, our teams, I mean, we obviously do have teams that we, subscribe to. And that's kind of a big thing in the book. So when I look at the book as a whole, I think that what really worked is the anything that involves his life. I think that was compelling. I think that it was well written, and I think that was something that I want to learn more about. I think where the book starts to falter, at least for me, was when he gets into his job at the state. Like, that's when it starts to get a little boring to me. Like hearing him fight with.
See, I found that to be as interesting, but I found the Trump stuff to be the least interesting part.
Yeah, I think it's because
the part the media wants
we
to
have
focus on
covered
the
it
most.
so much, and it's nothing new. I mean, to kind of, when people say, "Oh, this book's about Trump," it really isn't, except for those last 2 chapters. But it kind of is, because there's themes throughout the whole thing that he.
The theme of the bully.
Exactly. That he uses the theme of we don't do loyalty. The theme of we don't pick sides. We keep things separate. So there's all these themes that he builds up on.
Even when he starts the book talking about it's not the first chapter, but it's the second and third, and when he's talking about the mafia and he's talking about mafia bosses, there are definitely some correlations between Trump's personality and the way that he's describing
he brings
mafia
it back
bosses
100% to it. He literally says, I felt like I was right back with the mob boss. Like, that's what he says. So to me, like anything that involves him and his work as a lawyer, working under Rudy Giuliani, extremely interesting, extremely compelling.
The post 9/11 stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, totally awesome. And then once he starts butting heads with the Bush administration, it was still compelling because that's a very interesting story. And same thing with the Martha Stewart. I thought that was great. But then it didn't lose me, but it wasn't as compelling. It just became kind of a procedural where it was like, this is what I did, this is what I was doing.
Well, and I think also with when we get to that point that like it converges with the the story the media has been telling and the story we've been hearing for the last 15 years post 9/11,
right?
When the three of us have been keeping up with politics,
Yeah.
So I think everything before that was stuff that was still new to us.
Yeah, we knew all of that stuff.
We knew about Martha Stewart. Like, I didn't realize the role he had played in all these.
I didn't realize how badly she screwed
over the last
herself.
15 years.
Like, he even says, like, she could have just fucking lied to us and been, or not even lied, just been like, "Oops, didn't know anything, sorry," and been done with it. But she was like, "I didn't know anything," and then went out of her way to obviously cover it up.
Right.
Yeah. Which is one of my favorite parts in the book. Comey talks about the fact that, like, how messed up is that for white collar crime, they have to prove that the person knew what they were doing was illegal.
Exactly.
He says, he makes the point that if the FBI kicks in a hotel room and there's heroin on the table, everyone in that room gets arrested.
Yeah.
They don't have to prove that the people knew what it was.
Exactly.
Like, ignorance of the law is not an excuse unless you're rich, and then it totally is an excuse.
Right. And that's why, and that kind of directly led back into his reasoning with Hillary Clinton, where he was saying, we had to treat it like she could go to jail if we could prove intent, but we couldn't. That part, everything with Hillary, I still think it's
bullshit
compelling.
that the he steamrolls over the fact that the FBI does not videotape or record the audio of any not investigation, questioning, which I think is they just have someone take notes, which I think is
kind of
ridiculous in this day and age.
Yeah,
exactly. And he breezes over it just like that's policy. That's policy.
Exactly.
Like, dude, that's a policy based on the fact that it's easy to change it. Yeah.
And that's
we don't need to actually get the exact word for word. It's like, isn't that the whole point of Bob Mueller and what he's trying to get Trump to sit down on? Or even when he says about...
And isn't that the whole point of the FBI?
Yeah.
Is like
he
irreversible
even said
proof.
Isn't that the whole point?
Proof?
Isn't that the whole point of law enforcement? Period. Like,
exactly. They said it. That's what they do. They try to they come in. They don't interview anyone until the very end because we don't want them to know more than we do. And the whole point of that is so that we know the facts. We can ask them the question, and then if they lie, we can confront them. Well, wouldn't you want the entire transcript? Like, that's the whole point of, like, looking at emails. Emails are a digital transcript. What the fuck are you doing?
And you think it would make it a lot easier when you finally say that person lied to be able to throw a tape or a
that's
MP3
why
file down and be like, here's the proof.
And he mentions that about Trump saying, I hope there was tapes. He's like, this changes everything because if there were tapes, it's no longer my word against his. Now there is an actual transcript. It's like, well, why aren't you doing that, man?
Yeah.
So
no,
that part was a little frustrating. It did change my opinion though, which I didn't expect it to.
Right, and that's kind of
in what way?
Well, for a long time now, throughout the show, obviously people who have been actually listening to us throughout this whole, 50 episodes know that I've repeatedly said that James Comey deserved to be fired. I no longer believe that. And I think that whenever I heard his reasoning behind why he didn't, why he, came to the conclusion that he did on the Hillary Clinton email scandals, just saying, like, listen, she was negligent, but she's kind of dumb when it comes to computers. She thought that because the Secret Service was in her house, her emails were protected. She didn't fucking know what she was doing. And that's the point. Like, I'm supposed to be able, I have to prove that she meant to do it. And then whenever it came to, we intended this to be, because I had said, like, I want to know why he exonerated her before interviewing her. Well, it sounds like it's standard procedure that they draft these things. This is the way that it's going. So that answers my question. That was one of the big things that I had been wondering and worried about. And why can't anyone answer this? Well, he's writing the fucking book. Apparently,
one of the biggest criticisms from the right of James Comey and the Hillary Clinton investigation not only is that was drafted, but that you've heard people like non-journalists like Sean Hannity say that, like, what's the deal with, like, intent? Is that, and so is that a good
point? I don't think that I personally don't think so, because to me that's like involuntary manslaughter shouldn't be a thing then. Well, I didn't mean to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, you don't.
So is intent?
Exactly.
So is intent
you have to face the
bad
consequences of what you do, not just what you intend to do.
Yeah.
Is it a bad policy then to have to?
I think it's an
intent?
unfair policy. I think that it affects, like, again, like you said, with the people, you bust down the door and everyone's got cocaine around them. Well, I didn't intend to use it. I didn't intend to buy it. I don't know what that's doing there. It's not mine. You know what I mean?
Right.
It doesn't fucking fly. But
Yeah.
but for people in politics or white collar crime, it does, and I just don't think it's very fair.
Right.
It's not. It's totally not fair. I agree.
Yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
And it should. I mean, the law should be if you. I mean, because we've always heard that. That's an old cliche in movies. Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Exactly.
Judges will not.
Apparently, it is.
So it shouldn't. Yeah, it depends on the crime. If it's like hard, like.
Yeah.
I guess all laws are like hard to understand if they're written in
Now,
like legalese. But...
The other thing that really, really interested me is what he said about Loretta Lynch, which I thought was fucking cryptic. Like,
Right,
he came
and
out,
I've not gotten to that part yet, and so you'll have to explain that to us.
He goes into a part where he says that, listen,
To you.
there's things that I know that no one else knows on here yet. He was like, but in 20 to 30 years, we'll become declassified. And it might...
Public knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, and it might look like she was playing a side. And he goes, I knew this information, which I can't tell you. And then she told me to discuss this as a matter, which disturbed me and led directly to his decision whenever he was giving his recommendation for no charges to go around them and be like, I'm going to do this myself. I'm not going to let you know what I do. I'm going to tell you I've made my decision, but I'm not going to say it to you either one way or the other. It really doesn't look good for Loretta Lynch. I mean, he doesn't go far enough as to say she was dirty, but he heavily implies it with a lot of the shit that he says. And
yeah,
it's weird.
No, that's the impression I got too, that it was, because he does harp on that quite a bit.
He even says how
harken back to that day
surprised he was when she hugged
because
him.
Because it did, like, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, oh yeah, when I thought you could... Okay, he is the recipient of a lot of unwanted contact. He had her hugging him unwanted, and then Trump with
he
the
blocked
quote
that
unquote
one.
Kiss that comes up later.
He's like, I fucking tensed up like a linebacker. And
My favorite moment is him confirming that he was indeed trying to blend into the curtains.
I was just about to bring that up.
The late night talk show host.
God, that was so funny.
So when it happened, I thought Trevor Noah and Stephen Colbert, I thought they were just making a joke on the fact that he was wearing the exact same color. I did not. When he started talking about it in the book, I genuinely almost dropped my glass, being like, "Oh, that was real."
Well,
he actually purposely made his way to the curtains so he wouldn't be seen by Trump.
See, he should have just pulled up Sean Spicer and jumped in the fucking bushes. That's all he needed to do.
I'm jumping in the bushes. Well, he even goes on to say, it would have been the other room, which has red colors, or the other room, which had blue colors. This wouldn't have worked, but it was green, and I was wearing green. Yeah. It was so funny.
I think it was the blue room. He was
that's
blue,
it.
right?
It was blue room, yeah. And he's like, I'm wearing blue.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It was so funny.
And I love the fact that he says, because we talked about it, because Trump singles him out, and what we thought at the time was that Trump had kissed him because that's the way the cameras were focused.
Because he's kissed other people.
But turns out, I guess Trump had whispered in his ear.
Yeah, but he kissed fucking Mike Pence. He kissed who else did he? He kissed a bunch of weird people. That's kind of goofy and weird. But yeah,
he's some weird sexual things going on.
So then obviously, I know. So then it goes into my least favorite part of this book is the Trump segments, only because.
Yeah, me too.
I get it, and I totally understand it, but he says something to Obama.
All it truly does is it just kind of expands on the testimony he gave last year that we
but you really get the sense that he, even before Trump became involved, even before he was really president-elect or right after, James Comey didn't fucking like him. And that doesn't sit well with me because he spends the entire book. Well, I know, but he spends the entire book talking about how he's spent his whole life trying to avoid partisanship and you just do the job. That's what it is. It doesn't matter which side.
Now,
but he has that whole conversation with Obama, and he says, he even says, I broke with my normal non-emotional self and said, I can't even believe what the next 4 years is going to bring or something like that. And Obama, to his credit, said he was stone-faced. He was he didn't say one way or the other, anything. Yeah.
See, I did get the feeling though that because he says that he didn't vote for Obama the first time.
Yeah.
And his daughter and his wife did. they voted for Hillary. He's very open about that. But I thought it was interesting. I thought it was pretty genuine when he was talking about Obama, because it seemed like he was actually he didn't like the guy enough to vote for him, but he was kind of won over working with him.
Yeah, and he said that
I've heard that from a lot of people that have worked with Barack Obama, that in person, say whatever you want about his presidency and his press conferences, and whether we can debate Mitch whether he has swag or not, but he
does.
I mean, I think I said it on an episode
swag, man.
several months ago when I was talking to one of the former ambassadors. I probably shouldn't say where, but a foreign ambassador to the United States, who said that this is how Barack Obama is in person, and it was basically the same thing. Obama I think won people over with his personality. No matter what,
he's charismatic and he's intelligent, so that goes a long way, especially when you're in a leadership position. You want your guy to be charismatic and intelligent.
So then by those set of standards, it would be easy to understand why somebody wouldn't like Trump, because they're human, and
he set up.
He has those qualities. He has them in a different way, though.
Yeah,
Trump is smart, but it's in a more
it's in a more
he
cunning
knows how to
and
exploit
devious
someone's
way.
weaknesses.
It's in a more I'm gonna fuck the other guy type of way.
You might describe it as a bully way.
Yeah,
but
exactly. And again, he spent so much of the book
he
talking
is
about,
smart to some degree.
Yeah. And
he's definitely charismatic to some degree.
Exactly, because most people say when they meet Trump, he was very gracious. Even Comey says, we had a very pleasant, dinner.
Yeah,
everything was good.
He can turn on the charm when he wants to.
But I didn't where I really diverged from the book, and it really came down to I respect Comey. I do now. I have a different opinion of him than I did before reading the book, which is why I try to get more conservatives and Republicans to fucking read it. Everyone that is on my
side. Same thing with Democrats, man.
Yeah, I know.
As many Democrats that I know that
I'm sure Hillary Clinton did not read it. She fucking hates it.
It's outselling her book, I think. So she's probably pissed.
She dedicated how many chapters? Has anybody
checked on the numbers?
Fuck James Comey. I don't know, 7.
She dedicated 2 chapters to what she ate in the morning.
She had a chapter for fuck everyone. Literally every chapter was this is why it wasn't my fault. This is why it wasn't my fault.
Or just weird anecdotes about her grandma. I was like, all right, what? But
yeah,
that's a different book report on there. But anyway, when I go back to where I kind of left from the book, it was in the last couple of pages. And he gets this idea, and he really hits home this higher loyalty theme, which of course is the title of the book, and it's a great way to end the book if that's how you're writing it. But I disagreed with him, and he went on to say that listen, these little lies matter. I don't care that he did the tax reform that's good, or I don't care that he's putting in justices that I agree with, and I don't care that he's doing this for the country or that for the country. It's the little lies that mean more than anything else, and I disagree. I don't think so. I think that I think he's doing more for the country than he's harming it. And he thinks the opposite.
And this is, and Comey says this at the beginning. He tells an anecdote about. He's a very tall man, and he lied to his colleagues when they asked him if he had played basketball in college. And he said yes. And then later up, he says he called them and told them that he didn't because it matters. He really presents himself as this man who's incapable of telling even a white lie.
Yeah, he kind of comes off as a Boy Scout towards the end, which to me is just
a little bit.
I don't give a shit about.
Yeah, I mean, as someone,
I'd rather have an effective.
As someone
leader.
who routinely. As someone who routinely employs white lies, I don't think they necessarily lead to great evil.
Yeah, exactly. So
just
ask. I think sometimes they're necessary.
We'll get into
evil.
the white lies bit a little bit later in the show too, because that's going to get brought back up. But to me, he really drove that home. That this departure from the norms. I don't care what the results are. This is the way things are done, and if you're not doing it in this normal way, that you are hurting the country. And I just fundamentally disagreed with him. I just thought, no, I get you. I get where you're coming from. I understand your psyche. I understand your personal story.
Yes, and I certainly,
I just disagree.
I certainly believe that he thinks he's right.
Yeah.
Or that he's doing what's right.
And we've said that before.
I trust that he thinks.
Even before all this, we said I really think that James Comey thinks he's doing the right things. But if his goals were to A, not influence the election, and B, instill confidence in the FBI, he has failed. Those are the opposite of what ended up happening.
Well, one of the most interesting things too, I think I said it. I may have said it last week when Frank and I did 49. But one of the most interesting questions that he has been asked on his book tour that he's been doing through the media, Jake Tapper. If you haven't watched this interview yet, like I expected CNN to just throw him a bunch of softballs, and Jake Tapper
this is
really
an apple.
did a good.
Look at this apple.
Right. He did a really good job of asking him some tough questions. And one of the questions that he asked him was, okay, so the reason that you came out and you said that we're reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton a couple days or whatever before the election was so because you thought that she was going to become president, so you didn't want to delegitimize her. But by not telling Donald Trump and by not telling the country that the investigation into Russian collusion between the campaign or involving the campaign was going on, didn't you kind of delegitimize him? And I was like, whoa, is CNN
true.
Are they making points for Donald Trump now? But it's a good question. Like it is. It is a good
in the
question.
book, he really pushes it off onto Obama.
And his answer,
like he spends the whole time saying, like,
well,
this
partially
is
Obama.
It's like this is his deal. He decided not to go forward with it. Whatever, blah blah blah. And it's like, nah, man, you're involved.
I believe we knew that before. I believe Obama had come out and said that he had known about it before the American people, and that they had discussed whether coming out with it would be beneficial or whether it would just complete the task Russia set out to complete.
Yeah.
I think he also, I don't know. It's an interesting question.
It is because it kind of like his whole reasoning behind why he sent the letter saying they were reopening in the investigation, because they were, and he even says that Loretta Lynch brings up the fact that, it's a good thing you came out and said it. It's a no-win scenario, but how long do you think it would have taken until it leaked? Because it was going beyond just justice. It was hitting everyone. As soon as you asked for that warrant on Anthony Weiner's computer, more than journalists were going to find out, and it was just, and then they could have used it.
It was a countdown
on the last day of the election and just fucked everything up.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think he also had talked about I think he'd also talked about the fact that he was living in a world where he assumed that Hillary was going to win. Yeah. So I don't think he was as much concerned about, like, how is this going to come off if Trump wins, because at that point, a lot of people were writing that off as an impossibility.
Right. Although I will still say, in my opinion, my personal opinion, that was the game changer. That was
in Hillary
the
Clinton's personal opinion. That was the moment. I actually agree. I think that she's right. I think that you're right. I think that is right. That was the moment.
I think it was the tipping point.
It was fucking palpable. We all felt it. Like, as soon as it came out, it was boom, game changer.
That was, I've said it.
We thought
a million times.
We thought it about the Billy Bush tape too, didn't we?
Yeah.
The Billy Bush tape had the same feel. And it didn't end up being the thing that took him down.
It was Teflon Don. It just didn't stick. But she's not Teflon Don.
The difference, though, I think, between the Billy Bush tape and that moment was that, to Mitch's point, we had seen Teflon Don say things about the Khan family and say things about John McCain and say,
Mexican lawyer or that Mexican judge.
Right, so grab him by the pussy just felt like another moment like that, when we still thought that because of all of those things, Hillary had the election by the balls. It was that moment, and I've said it 100 times throughout the course of the show, it was that moment that I first went, holy fuck, what if this doesn't go the way that we've been saying it's going to go? And I think that feeling was that intuition that this is the game changer. Like, that is the moment that stole the election for Donald Trump.
It fucking was.
Yeah.
But also the narratives were different. So whenever the narrative against Trump was he's crass, he's crude, he's a womanizer, all those things, which are completely true. But when you prove that narrative, there's a ton of people who just don't fucking care. And the narrative against Hillary Clinton was she's corrupt. And when you add credence to that, 11 days or however many days before the election, it fucking
the FBI
sticks.
comes out and reopens an investigation.
Yeah.
It looks like she's guilty.
It looks like she's corrupt.
It totally did lead to it. Like, and it didn't lead to it. It was the final. Like, that was the turning point. It was that statistical error that swayed it in his favor.
It is the greatest irony of James Comey that he hates Donald Trump so much that he thought it was wrapped up, and he swung
part of
the election.
reason that the man got elected.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we could debate about that. And I know that there's people who I've seen the anti-analytics. They're like, no, he actually didn't, and it was going this way, and it was like, yeah, I get it, but I felt it. I mean, we fucking all felt it.
Absolutely. So, all right. So,
and
Mitch,
you can't argue against a feeling.
Yeah.
Right. Mitch, you gave it an 8.5. What do you give it, Frank?
I did.
I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. It's probably definitely the best political book I've read, like current political book that's come out of the Trump presidency.
Well, yeah,
it's no. There's
been a lot of them.
It's no Fire and Fury. So.
Because that was 10 out of 10.
I include the Clinton book and any book that talks mainly about that election as being in that.
I didn't even read Fire and Fury. Clinton's book was fucking 3 out of 10. Give her 2 for effort, and then 1 because some of it was interesting.
Here's the thing. I give Clinton's book a 1 out of 10 because I had anticipated reading it until I started reading it, and then I just stopped. So,
I don't need to read this.
This one,
you
so
missed
far,
nothing.
So far, I can't rate it honestly because I haven't finished the book. But so far,
because if I would have just done the first half, I would have gave it 10 out of 10. I fucking loved it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was.
I would have too, and I think the only part where the book slipped for me was the ending a little bit.
Exactly.
Partially because the story is also not done.
Exactly.
So I think this is a book that if he writes a lengthy appendix, or an afterword in 15, 20 years or 30 years when the Lynch stuff comes out, I think then you're going to have a 10-star, a book that is going to be ageless. It's going to kind of sum up this era.
Yeah. My interest
but
is
I think we're still waiting for the other shoe to drop. We need a definite ending.
Sally Yates too. He kind of implements her in all of that too, where he was like, they were acting weird, like they're making decisions that I would not have made, and that I don't think they should have made. And obviously, we saw how emotional Sally Yates got, and the second she could stand against him, she was like, "Nope, I say no." He was like, "I say you're fired."
He talks about that he talks about that with the Trump campaign and with the DNC, and somewhat about like, as someone who's been in the FBI a long time, they're certainly acting as if they're guilty, while proclaiming their innocence. It's just that hunch, and that you can't. Yeah. It's not, it's not proof, but as someone who's been a cop for that long, you kind of have to go with your gut.
Yeah.
There's a lot about this book I loved. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Not only is it quotable, but there's just so many fucking amazing insights into it. And again, it's got us asking questions. I'm going to be looking at Sally Yates and Loretta Lynch for a while and being like, what the fuck is there?
So I think.
Oh no, I'm sure. Yeah,
I think to sum up,
we'll do like a companion in like 30 years to this episode.
I
hope so. To see what happens.
And to sum the whole thing up, I think that if you respect our opinion on TDAP, which parentheses
you fucking should.
maybe you shouldn't, but see, we have differing opinions.
I hate to tell you guys, but I hate to tell you, but I barely respect both of your opinions. So.
But
communists.
What I will say to the listener is, don't take our word for it. Read it. It's definitely worth reading.
It is.
Everything
is worth reading.
I honestly, once I started reading it, Mitch, I had a feeling that your opinion would change on James Comey from the way that we've all talked about him for the last year and a half. Like, I really honestly, once I got into it, was like, okay, well, it's hard not to respect him, but don't take our word for it, listener.
Still think he's the leaker. He went out and went in depth
he said
about why he's not the leaker. No, he was like, it wasn't leaking. It wasn't leaking. I was like, fuck you, you're the leaker.
Right. He did talk about that being declassified and whatever. But go read it for yourself. It's definitely worth it. And in between this segment and the segment 30 years from now, hopefully he'll just finish Game of Thrones. That's what I'm hoping for.
It was a historic handshake seen around the world this week. The leaders from North and South Korea agreeing to end their decades-long war.
President Trump touting the summit as encouraging for the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. But is it the president's tough talk that led to a possible peace agreement?
I spoke to the president this morning of South Korea. He gives us tremendous credit.
President Trump touting his involvement in the historic end to the Korean War. So, does President Trump deserve credit for this diplomatic achievement and perhaps, eventually, even the Nobel Peace Prize?
Alrighty, now let's get into what we promised you last week. We actually talked a little bit about North Korea last week, and actually, Mitch, I did something that I don't typically like to do, and I quoted you while you weren't here to defend yourself. So,
oh God,
I thought you were going to say research.
No, shut the fuck up. No, I actually thought that you made a decent point last week about. Because I had asked you before Frank and I recorded the show that do you think that is there a reason to trust or not? It wasn't. Is there a reason to trust Kim Jong-un? But it was more along the lines of why is he coming to the table now? And your thought or your response to me, if I'm paraphrasing it correctly,
you're not,
was that Donald Trump is as crazy as, this isn't what you said, but it was basically he's acted as crazy as Kim Jong-un in a way that maybe Kim Jong-un has looked at him and been like, oh fuck, this guy's gonna blow me off the map, so maybe I should come to the table. I think that's basically what your point was with me.
No, that was half my point. So you got it fucking wrong, but
well, that's why I brought it up first, so that you could defend yourself here and make your own point.
So my thoughts on is Kim Jong-un trustworthy when it comes to establishing peace and all of that. I think yes. My gut tells me yes, and my reasoning behind that is thus. I think that the nukes were a means to an end. They really understood, in Kim Jong-un over the rest of the Kim family, that nukes equaled power. That they were never going to be ushered into the UN and everything that they wanted for their nation unless they were going to be able to bully their way there. And Kim Jong-un rightfully saw that once he acquired these nukes, the game fucking changes. And not only when he acquires these nukes, but when he acquires the capability of nuking anyone at any time, game changer. Mm-hmm. And I think that couple that with the fact you might have seen him trying to get more shit out if it was Barack Obama, where Barack Obama would have been like, I'm not going to attack you. You know I'm not going to attack you. The rest of the fucking world knows I'm not going to attack you. So I could see Kim Jong-un saying, like, I want this, I want that, and then I'll denuclearize and all that. But this is a means to an end for him, and it's working. Now he sees Trump, and he goes, oh, fuck, dude, that guy might nuke me. Like, I'm going to just go ahead and be like, no, it's cool. Denuclearize, that's fine. But we're going to start breaking down the barriers here. You're going to include me in the UN. You're going to start treating us like a country, which, by the way, for the past, 10 years, we've been crippling their country with sanctions. And not just us, the whole fucking world. Right. He very rightly understood that once you have the nukes, you got the power. And he knew that, I'm not going to stop, because if I stop now, I'm still that dictator who's been starving my country. They're not going to respect me if I denuclearize now before he had those capabilities. So that was my point. My point is he's got what he wants. Now he is forcing his way to the table. And we don't want to get fucking nuked, so we're going to allow it. He doesn't want to get fucking nuked, so he's going to denuclearize because that's our position. Our position, or Donald Trump's position, rather, is you're getting rid of those nukes.
So basically the story here, to back up Mitch's point, which is that basically now we're seeing peace talks. We saw an end to the Korean War. They're no longer...
That's spelled fucking END, man. It's the end. They ended it, according to them.
Right. They're no longer blasting K-pop and propaganda at each other, so that's good. But
getting rid of the weapons on the border.
Here's
Not a big deal.
Here's a point that I made to you when we were texting earlier in the week, and I'll say this to Frank too, and you guys can both chime in on this and let me know how you feel about it. I don't trust Kim Jong-un, and I understand your point, and I don't think that it's a horrible point, but you're talking about a dude who's historically crazy as fuck, a family that's historically crazy as fuck, and just because we've got our own crazy fuck running the show over here, I don't know that I trust a guy who literally just grabbed onto this capability months ago, and now,
I mean, if we're talking about things he did months ago, he also killed his own uncle.
Right.
Just like
right.
A year
I don't
ago.
think he's crazy though. Like you're saying, he's crazy. I think he's brutal. I think there's a difference. And I don't think that he's fucking. I think he's calculating, and I think that he's willing to go to very scary depths. But
these guys are the guys who who played a game of golf and got 21 holes in one. They might be a little crazy.
I think they're a little dictatorial.
I mean, part of that might be him just like daring his own people, like call me out of my crazy and see if you don't end up on my.
The oranges. The oranges are fake, dude. The fruit is fake.
The oranges
that's
are
all
fake.
I'm saying. So
you're just
they don't know that. They only get their media. If you only get your media from state-run propaganda, you believe what they're. People believe that Putin goes out and kills grizzlies with his shirt off because that's the Russian propaganda that they.
I believe that he goes out and kills grizzlies. What are you talking about?
Nah, dude.
But we've already established that
that dude is scary.
You're a Russian plant, Mitch. We know this.
That was not Putin. That was not Putin. That was Alex Jones. Don't fucking lie. Don't get it twisted. Alex Jones killing grizzlies in a lake of purity. I don't know.
That's right.
Anyway,
all day.
So here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that worries me about this. Donald Trump, for being a guy who had somebody else write a book called The Art of the Deal and then signing his name to it. He doesn't seem.
That was The Art of the Deal, man.
He plays. The way that I described it to you, Mitch, was that he's a guy who plays poker with his cards already on the table. You know that to please Donald Trump, that all you have to do is convince him that he has done something good. So if Kim Jong-un isn't crazy, like you're saying, if Kim Jong-un is only brutal and isn't nuts, then it seems like an easier play after striving for the capability, the nuclear capability, and then getting your hands on it, to just say, okay, we'll make these deals, and then but then still keep your finger hovering over that button. Kim Jong-un doesn't strike me as the guy.
Well, we ran a whole segment over how many times they've promised to denuclearize. What was it, 6? Was it 6 or 7? They've said this before. I just think that they're telling the truth this time,
and that's exactly where I'm at. I'm cautiously optimistic. It would be great if we could let's not forget, even if they make peace in Korea and they both sides get along, let's not forget that North Korea is led by a man who routinely kills people and has a dictator grip.
Yes.
It's not going to be sunshine anytime soon.
So does the Chinese. But, so does the Russians.
It would be great.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be all sunshine, but we work with them.
Right.
Yeah.
I do think
it'd be rolling back that doomsday clock. We've been. How close did we get recently? We got the closest we've been since the Bay of Pigs,
I thought that was fucking stupid, though. I didn't agree with that at all.
It probably was, but if you take any stock in that as a measurement, maybe we, definitely this would be a rolling it back a few hours.
It probably won't.
I do think
Trump's still president. It's even closer.
I do think that it's interesting that people are calling for Trump to get a Nobel Peace Prize out of this.
Moon
because
is
that
calling
will never
for him to do it. I don't think you're right. I think he's got a very fucking good chance at it. Again,
are you kidding me? He's Donald Trump.
It doesn't matter.
If it happens.
It doesn't matter. Moon is calling for him to do it. And I think that if you are if you are looking at it objectively, which I know is a bit of a fucking, it's a wish list at this point, this time in age. But if you are looking at it objectively, there is a very strong case that you could argue that Donald Trump does deserve, as well as Kim Jong-un and as well as President Moon, that they all deserve the Peace Prize for getting this accomplished.
I actually think if you're looking at it objectively, that Moon and who is the leader of China,
Z or what is it? It's XI. Like, how do you say that? Z.
I believe it's Zai. Zai is how I've heard it pronounced. I believe.
Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it. But that's who he is.
Let's keep in mind that these are the guys who opened the talks with North Korea before Pompeo went over there on Easter.
Yeah.
These are the guys that brought armored trains into China. These are the guys that
let's not pretend that they haven't been talking for years, though. I mean, China has been dealing with them. They were 75% of their economy.
Now, if this happens, like the best possible scenario, everyone gets along, denuclearization, I would not be opposed to them giving, the 4 or 5 leaders of the nations that helped do this.
Yeah,
that's fine, but I think
because it still symbolizes peace.
Realistically, the world hates Donald Trump. There is no way.
I don't think the world hates Donald Trump as much as liberals want them to think they do.
Do you think, if this happened and they gave it to Kim Jong-un for
I don't think that's
peace and for
I don't think that's going to happen.
Do you think people would freak out?
Yes, I do. I think they'd probably be justified in freaking out. I do think that, it's kind of like that serial killer who just decides, one day, I guess I won't kill you, and he pats the baby on the head instead of punting it into the moon. Like, do we really give that guy an award? He didn't do it. But is it really gets rid of all the other people he killed? That'd be the harder one for me to see.
Some people would say that about Trump, about not the murder, but
I'm about to say, I was like, that's a little. Just because I know they say it, but it's
just because no. But I've heard that liberal argument of just because it happened under his watch didn't mean he did anything to help it.
Yeah, I think that those people aren't.
All right,
those people aren't playing with the
I think
facts.
they're wrong.
See the Obama economy.
I agree, but that is an argument.
Right.
So I don't know. I honestly can't imagine. Maybe you're right, and maybe he does deserve it, but I still don't see it happening.
I think it all depends on the objectivity of the Nobel Prize committee, and I think there's a plausible chance that he would win, especially with Moon's endorsement.
You want to talk about the object?
I don't know.
You want to talk about the objectivity
of
the
being very liberal.
If
what are you
talk about the objectivity of the committee, they gave Barack Obama a Peace Prize essentially for being the first black president of the United States, right?
They said it was for creating, fostering peace within the Middle East, which somehow he did.
Is that what it was?
That's what the official reason they gave it to him.
I
know he didn't.
Wait a minute. When did we get peace in the Middle East, guys?
All right.
Hey,
I must have missed
where's that peace? Yeah, that was the reason why, because he made all these outreaches to the Muslim nations. And that was supposed to be fostering peace. Of course, ISIS came after, so, oops. But,
I guess I must have just caught the Sean Hannity talking point.
Yeah.
My bad.
But to be fair, we don't know what comes next with this
trying.
either. So I think that to sit there and go, well, we shouldn't give it to him.
It depends on
who
it
knows?
plays out. No, but if this plays out like 100% best case scenario, I could totally see them doing it. I don't think it will.
He's already rising.
Being a little too optimistic now.
Trump's already seeing the first bump.
I'm more
he's 43% in some polls.
Fake polls. They're fake polls.
This is aggregate.
42 is what the new Gallup has him at.
Yeah, and that's Gallup. Gallup has had him low for this whole time. If you look at Real Clear Politics, which is the one I use, I think he's at 42.9, something like that.
Yeah, I think 538 has him at 41.
And if you look at if you pull it up, people at home listening, if you guys look at it, which I'm sure you won't see it now because obviously this is days and days before you're listening to it. But regardless, if you looked at it right now, you would see that he's having a little spike.
Magic.
So I think that this is actually, I think people are taking notice. Again, his poll numbers are rising.
Yeah.
There is a trend here. It is going
well,
up.
yeah, when he tries to end long-time wars and he doesn't start pointless trade wars, that's great. This is exactly what you expect to see. Now, we're still talking about low 40s. That's not great polling numbers.
No, it's not great. But again, I still add in that 3%. So I still have I have him personally at about 45%, which is not bad.
Why? I don't understand why you're.
It's still not bad. It's bad for a president in his first year.
You guys can make fun of it all you want. It works.
I think at this point you're wrong for adding 3% because I think the Trump people are loud. I don't think that
I still don't think so. It's not the Trump people that I'm adding in. I'm adding in the silent people who just don't think that he's evil and prefer him because they like the results. It's hard to get those people because, again, they might have liberal leanings, but they don't want to go against the crowd because the people who are around them are saying, no, you can't like him. You're not allowed to. If you even think that he's doing an okay job or if something about him isn't horrible, you're fucking horrible. And so they just don't say it. And again, I think that that's a very palpable effect when it comes to the polling. And I was right the last time. I don't know if I'm right this time, but I'm still adding it because I still feel that way.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens with it. But, I mean, it's definitely, it gets more
Did you guys read the poll information that I sent you on the millennials? I don't know if you saw that, but millennials, Democrats' lead with millennials was 12% 2 years ago. It is gone. They are equal now, Republicans and Democrats. And this isn't just one poll. This is aggregate polling. They are equally tied at 39%.
They have really lost.
Yeah, both Republicans and Democrats.
Like Republicans.
But what do you think that means going forward? Like,
I think that it means that they need to. Democrats need a fucking message. You can't just irrationally hate Trump forever and expect to win. It's not going to happen. You've got to do something. Yeah. I don't know what you're for except for just hating Trump. And it's not going to win.
Especially going into a midterm like this.
That's absolutely not true, though. You do know what they're for. You just don't like.
You know what
they're
Bernie
for.
Sanders is for. You don't know what the Democratic Party is for. How progressive are they going to go?
That's exactly what they are for. They're for that progressive.
Are they? Because it seems like they keep not going that way.
Of anti-bigoted LGBT rights, whatever. Like, they're for those social issues. That's their message. That's their platform. They're not selling it well at all.
They're not.
But that's what. But that is what they stand for.
It's also not that that's great to be socially progressive, but it's not playing to the
No, it's not.
It's not playing for independence. Again, just because 90% of Democrats say Democrats are doing a great fucking job doesn't mean that the rest of the independents, which you need.
I completely agree with both of you on that. Like, I don't think that that's the message that they need to win. But to say that they don't have a message, I think is incorrect. They do have a message. We're just not buying it right now.
Yeah. I think it's very hard, especially...
I mean, how much of this, too...
Go ahead.
How much of the millennial drop-off is due to the fact that so many of them were Bernie fans that watched him essentially kind of get robbed of a nomination and got
But then again...
Because the millennials are young. This is probably the first election besides Obama, if they're old enough that they care.
Millennials are getting older, and the older you get, typically you tend to go more conservative. Reuters did a really, really great piece on this where they were interviewing a lot of these millennials who were like, I voted for Hillary Clinton, I backed Bernie Sanders. Since then, I was for abortion rights. Now I have 2 kids, and I view the issue differently. There was one guy who was from the city, and he was saying that, listen, I'm watching all of my friends who we have been struggling this past years. We're all getting jobs now. He's like, I'm taking notice of it.
But here's the thing that you have to remember too. That is a good point that millennials are getting older, but that doesn't mean that there's not a new generation of Democratic voters. There is. So
yeah, but again, these are people where times are very good for them. Like right now, again. It's very hard to argue that Trump's doing everything wrong when everything's going right. Like, you can argue he's a dick, and
I don't know that everything's going right, though. Just be like, as I look around, at least in my personal life, I still know a lot of people who don't have a job, or if they have a job, they're not making, like, the fact that, like, okay, if you go back to 1993, to send your kid to Yale cost $23,000. I don't know what it costs today, but I know it's a lot more than $23,000.
Yeah, I don't know how to break this to you, but the fucking higher education's a liberal establishment, so they're the ones that are charging you way more money.
I'm not saying that's the problem. I'm saying the problem is that while people might have a better job or they might be making more money, they're not being able to afford the things they used to be able to afford. I know a lot of people my age that are millennials that don't have a house.
Yeah, and again,
what happened?
That's not normal.
That's a higher problem. And again, the way that you fix it is. We're on that track to fix it, and the way you do that is you have full employment and raise wages. Once wages rise...
I thought it was just put $30 extra in your pocket per check.
Ha ha ha! Yeah, I get it, but unless you're Marco Rubio and it's just like nothing's working, everything's bad. I don't know what the fuck he was talking about for this past week. What are you doing, Marco? I don't know if you saw that, but he came out and was just like the tax plan didn't help anyone.
he's the ultimate like flip flop. Like he hated Trump, and then he sucked up to Trump after Trump won, and now he's against Trump.
I don't know what the fuck he's doing. And to be fair, I didn't read into his comments because I looked at it and said that's fucking stupid. So he could have a point. I don't know what it is.
I do think I've said that every time I've ever heard Marco Rubio speak.
I liked Rubio during the campaign.
I really liked Rubio. I donated to his campaign, and I really fucking wanted him to win.
The only reason that I didn't vote for him in the primary is because at the point where Missouri got to vote, the writing was already on the wall. And case in point, the day of our primary, after I voted for John Kasich because I had no other fucking option other than John Kasich, Ted Cruz, or Donald
You
Trump.
wanted to have that fucking snowball fight. We all know it.
Marco Rubio dropped out the day of our primary. So
he did.
So, there was no, but I did like him. I would have voted for him for president over Hillary Clinton. But yeah, I agree with both of you that since the campaign, he is like, I don't know what the fuck he stands for. But another point that I would make about millennials dropping off, I don't think that I think that they can make up those points with a couple of things. And I think if they get somebody else like Bernie Sanders that they can all get behind. Remember,
4 months, buddy.
I've said it, 4 months for what? We've got 4 months for
4 months until it's time to it's go time. You got 4 months to get a message, and then it's 2 months to fucking get it done.
No, I disagree with you. Here's the thing. Here's the message for the midterm. The message for the midterm is we can impeach Trump if we take Congress back. And I think that is enough for Democrats. There are enough people that...
That's enough for Democrats. I don't think that's enough for independents. And you're not winning with just Democrats. You have got to pool independents.
Right, but let's keep in mind, too, man, that we know that the party in power, their constituents are fucking lazy. Always. We always see this.
That's true.
They're comfortable. Go read a Fox News thread on Trump's gonna win. Oh, the Republicans are gonna win. What Republicans? They're all fucking retired. Like, are you kidding me?
I will tell you
so
this, though.
Also,
go ahead.
That Trump's gonna win mentality is not good for if you think your person isn't going to win, that I think might motivate you to go out and vote
Absolutely.
a little more.
Well, that's why I think this new wave might
be a
backfire.
Landslide.
Because right now everyone's talking about how the Democrats are going to dominate. Not only are they going to dominate, they're going to...
That's true. It is going both ways.
It's going to landslide.
I agree with you.
They might cancel each other out in this.
I think it's going to be hard to get... I think it's going to be hard to keep left-leaning people home.
Yeah, this was supposed to be about North Korea. It ended up being about the midterms, which is awesome.
Fuck it.
you brought up millennials.
I know.
You old man.
Because you did.
That was some shocking data. I saw the headline, and normally I'm like, all right, they're bullshitting, and it's going to be I think the headline was, Democrats slip with millennials. I was like, all right, it's going to be 2 points. No, it was 12 fucking points to where it's tied even with Republicans. That's fucked. I know millennials. I did not expect that at all. That's weird.
But you also know that the Republican Party, especially with all of these guys that are dropping out, that are retiring, the Republican Party, and I get it, the Democrats are the same. They've got the Elizabeth Warren wing of the Democrats, but you know what doesn't look as good as the Elizabeth Warren wing of the Democratic Party? The Roy Moore wing of the Republican Party, and that's what they do. Josh Hawley is gonna fucking lose in Missouri now because he's gone against rapist fucking Eric Greitens. There's fucking. I just don't see it. And I also see...
First off, you don't know that.
Complacency. No, not yet. But, come on. The writing's on the wall. We'll figure this out in a couple of months.
No, James Comey has inspired me. I'm not going to make anything until the facts come in. But, no, that's not entirely true. I'm pretty sure he's a rapist. But, however, getting away... getting away from this dude...
The White House Correspondents Association says critics of Saturday night's annual gala have a right to be upset. The group says comedian Michelle Wolf's routine was not in the spirit of its mission. Wolf made fun of the president and the media, but some argue her jokes about White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders went too far. In a tweet this morning, President Trump wrote, "The White House Correspondents' Dinner is dead," and went on to call the event a total disaster and an embarrassment.
It's 2018 and I'm a woman, so you cannot shut me up. Unless you have Michael Cohen wire me $130,000.
Michelle Wolf didn't pull any punches during her 19-minute routine. Her toughest jabs seemed to aim at White House staffers, including Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
I actually really like Sarah. I think she's very resourceful. Like, she burns facts, and then she uses that ash to create a perfect smoky eye.
Some female journalists said Wolf unfairly criticized Sanders' physical appearance, calling the routine deplorable.
What does Robert Mueller want to ask President Trump? Well, dozens of questions are now out in the public for the world to see. Questions that were reportedly read to the president's legal team in March that leaked to the media. The president calls the leaks disgraceful in a tweet.
Alrighty, now let's get into the rest of the week. We got a few more stories I want to get through.
Correspondence dinner.
I guess we'll, I guess we'll go into that now, because that's
the biggest story right now.
Yeah, it is. So, obviously, Michelle Wolf was the headline comedian for the Correspondence Dinner this year. Most people know this story by now. If not, the sound bites should have summed it up pretty well for you. But
yeah,
it was an unconventional act, to say the least. But it's garnered a lot of controversy. The right, and even to some extent the left, is really pulling from the Sarah Sanders, the attack on Sarah Sanders in her bit. So, but before we
weren't we just talking about how Democrats were alienating people?
Yeah, tough shit. But let's before we get into the specific content of her bit, what did you guys think about the bit overall? If you take the whole 16, 17, 20 minutes, whatever it was,
it was 20 minutes. Hilarious. I thought it was funny as fuck.
I agree.
That's what I thought too.
I think she is hilarious. I've been a big fan of hers. And
I thought her delivery was a little flat in probably 5 or 6 jokes. I think she stumbled on them, which again, I'm a big. No one knows this because how the fuck could you? At least I hope not. I'm a big stand-up comic fan. I watch every stand-up comedian on Netflix. I fucking love that shit. And especially the cruder the better. That's my humor. Exactly. Yeah. I love that shit. So to me, it was fucking hilarious.
Right. I didn't think it was that I didn't think it was that explosive. I watched it and I thought, oh, that was cute and that was funny.
Ooh.
I thought it was really good. And then the next day I see all these articles. And I'm like, what was so wrong about that? Didn't
because
Stephen
it's
Colbert
not
do
a
this in
Netflix
2006?
special. No, he didn't. It wasn't that bad. She went where, and again, I'm used to it because I watched that shit. They are not used to it. And when I stood back and looked at it objectively, I was like, dude.
They have turned the Correspondence Dinner. The Correspondence Dinner now has a red carpet. It's basically the East Coast Oscars, right? So
right, which is why they're saying hey, maybe we should not do this.
Right. I feel like the media, who, and I think you made a good point to me earlier in the week, Mitch, that they take themselves seriously, but this is a moment where they try to not take themselves seriously. They the whole feel of the night is, oh, we're gonna laugh about this and whatever. I do also think though that one of her jokes
weren't.
No,
go ahead.
But one of her jokes that she made, which I think was, I'm gonna piss off half of the listeners now. But I think it's evident that Donald Trump is a pussy. The difference between the difference between how this normally goes and how it goes under Donald Trump's presidency is Donald Trump doesn't show up. Normally, the president shows up and takes jabs at all of these people, including the comedian and all of this stuff too. Well,
I think that's where your point falls flat, but go on.
When he doesn't show up to do it, then it just seems like everybody's being picked on. So stop being a pussy. Don't go have a fucking a rally in Michigan, and because all you're doing, the only people that showed up to that fucking rally were people who are drinking the Kool-Aid anyway. So show the fuck up and show me that you can take it as well as you can dish it out, because she didn't say anything any worse than things that he has said. Period.
No, she didn't. And I hear that argument, and for the life of me, I don't fucking get it. And I'll make 2 points to why I think you're wrong. And the main one, well, let's get right into that last comment first, though, because I keep seeing this with a lot of late night comedians and a lot of the left saying, Donald Trump says these things, and so she says it, and it's no big deal. The problem is that you have railed for 2 years about why Donald Trump is so horrible for saying these things. So to sit there and say he did it too is a 5-year-old argument.
But the difference, and here's where I think there is, and here's where I think your argument falls flat. His job is to be the leader of the free world. Her job is to be a fucking comedian. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's fine. But again, if they're not laughing, then you're not doing your job right. Now, was I laughing?
I
yes,
was
I
laughing.
was.
I was laughing, guys.
I was laughing.
I thought
I was laughing. They weren't laughing. So again,
it's
just
it's
one of
jokes
those.
about them. Like, are they? I guess they are supposed to laugh. I don't know.
Well, that's kind of the point. It's a correspondence dinner. That's like being like, oh, I got to go speak at my daughter's, fucking assembly, but I decided to do my comedy bit about pussies and shit.
But if you remember,
that's the wrong place to do it. Is it still funny? Yeah, not in that context.
If you go back to 2006, Bush did not look too pleased with what Stephen Colbert was saying about him. There
was a difference, though, and that's because to my next point is that you sit there and you say, oh, well, they're supposed to take jabs at each other all night. These weren't jabs, and again, especially with the way that the media treats Trump now, they don't. It's not like, hey, I'm going to give you a hard time. Come here, you motherfucker. I'm going to give you a noogie. It's, I fucking hate you. I think you're evil. And I hate you so fucking much that these are all the things I'm going to lay out. They weren't roasting him. Like, they fucking actually don't like him as a person, as a professional. They hate him. There's a difference. And so I think that when it comes to Donald Trump not showing up, of course you don't show up. I wouldn't show up when someone's going to be like, hey, I wish you and everyone you know was dead. Like, no, I'm not showing up to that. And again, it comes down to that,
she didn't say that
main thing.
She
didn't, but you know that they think that. You know they fucking hate him.
Do you remember?
No, I didn't think that she actually said anything that was terrible. The thing is that it was mean-spirited, and that's the difference. Is before these jokes are picking on people, these were mean. That's the difference.
She got picked on, or she got flack for picking on Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who sat a few feet away. But to my recollection, all that she said about her was, what did she say about wanting to?
She wanted to. What I actually thought it was a funny joke when she said, "I don't know what to call Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Sarah Huckabee, cousin Sanders."
It was weird.
What do you call an Uncle Tom that for a white woman that disappoints other white women? I thought that was you could say
I don't
that
like the
mean.
Uncle Tom
That's
thing regardless.
Fine joke.
And then
the only other thing she said about her was the thing about I think she's resourceful.
Smoky eye.
She burns facts and then uses that to ash to create a perfect smoky eye. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's lies, which isn't that cutting. Yeah. It's just we've been making fun of her for being a liar for years. Like, she didn't make fat jokes about her. She didn't do anything that
No, she didn't. She did. Again, when you bring up the smoky eye, you bring to me. I noticed that right off the bat because we've had that discussion where people have been really nasty to Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah.
And I've said
that to me
as
was
soon
not
as those
that's that's more of a Maybelline joke about women.
No,
that's
but the whole point is that once they started attacking her for her looks, then she started putting on more of the makeup and doing stuff to try it. You could tell that it affected her, and so you could tell that this joke affected her too.
I'm going to triple down, though. I think there's a double standard here that when we make fun of a woman's looks, it is worse than when we make fun of a man's look. It's worse than when we talk about small hands or his fucking stupid hair or Chris Christie being a beached whale with a sombrero. Like, we talk about
again,
these
it
things
comes
all
back.
the time.
It comes down to the people. So when you look at Chris Christie, he's an asshole. So you can make fun of him. You look at Donald Trump, he's an asshole. But when you look at
Sarah Sanders, she is an asshole who does burn
She's
facts.
She's not an asshole. Does she lie? Yeah, but we've talked about that position every time, that everyone in that position lies. That's the job. You have your talking points, and you don't go off of them.
So you should expect to be roasted for it.
No, again, roasted is fine, but when it's mean-spirited shit, like when it comes to the smoky eye thing, you could tell that she was really feeling insecure about the comments that people were making, so she started wearing more makeup. And then you brought it right the fuck back up, right in front of her, and you could tell she was uncomfortable. So uncomfortable that Democrats in the room were like, "You went too fucking far." You probably did.
To that point, though, isn't Trump making fun of a handicapped reporter going way too far?
Again, yes, but that shouldn't be your argument. He did it too. Is a 5-year-old's
no, my argument is
and
she's
it
a comedian,
work.
and comedians often make fun of the people. Like,
but you can't
if
do that
into a stand-up
either.
comedian
Again,
show, like they pick on people.
But
that's part of humor.
At the end of the,
it's people
at the
just
end of the
hiding
day,
behind the fact that they're trying to tell a joke, and then anytime people say, "Oh, well, Trump was trying to tell a joke," well, no, he's the president. He can't. But
here's the problem, Mitch. The hypocrisy and the outrage, and I agree that it's on both sides, right? Because liberals can't say, "Oh, I'm outraged that Donald Trump said these things about the Khan family," but what Michelle Wolf said is fine. But at the same time, the conservatives who are like, "Oh, attacking her for her looks," and all, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, well, obviously, don't listen to
Brzezinski
conservative radio
with her
because they're
fucking
stupid.
bleeding from her facelift, and Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Like this is fucking hypocrisy at it. It's glaring.
All levels. It is at all levels. The problem is that both sides don't want to admit it. And I think that we're seeing a lot of resistance from the Democratic side saying, no, what we did was fine. And I don't think that it was. I think that if you look at it, take a step back and look at it, you can go, yeah, this is getting nasty. This is getting to the point where this isn't what we're supposed to be doing. And while I personally found everything
you could
funny,
say that about the presidency as well.
Yes,
so.
you
we
can.
were saying that a year ago about
Exactly.
Trump making fun of people. Like
Again, and that's
understand why
fine. But then
this
it
is,
goes
like,
back to
the
that.
thing that-
It comes back to that James Comey argument because she's not getting anything done. That's the difference here. He's getting shit done. Is he a douchebag asshole that says horrible things? Yes.
She's
but
not
he
paid
also
to
just
get things
possibly...
done, though. She's only paid to roast people, which I would say she did.
But that's where there's the difference. When people say, oh, you're just giving Trump a pass. It's like, no, he's the president and he's getting shit done. So I don't give him a pass on anything that he says. I still say everything he says is horrible. But
man,
you're just
Frank,
saying everything she says isn't horrible because, well, he says it too.
No.
That's a
here's
bad
the thing.
argument.
Here's the thing. They have different job descriptions. His job description is to get shit done. Her job description is to roast people, especially when she's invited to roast people. So they both accomplished their job. People didn't like how she did it, and that's fine.
I would say that that's not accomplishing your job. If your job is to be funny and everyone that we were supposed to be funny for wasn't laughing.
The people that are saying that people weren't laughing, people were laughing in that room.
Go watch it again because there's a lot of people in there and there are very few laughs.
I saw Don Lemon fucking busting his sides.
Yeah, the fucking the apex of journalism today, right?
Yeah, no shit. But I'm telling you,
who just gets drunk on New Year's every fucking year. Hey guys,
people weren't laughing about the Sarah Sanders thing. I get
that wasn't
that,
the part that bothered me. It really, that one again, to me, it just was the fact that it had gotten so far, and that while I thought it was funny for like a late night comedy show, it wasn't a fucking late night comedy show.
Would it have been? Would it have been more appropriate if Donald Trump had showed up and got to do his bit?
I don't think so. I think it still would have come off as mean, and we don't need to see Donald Trump being mean any more than we already do. Like it just would have come off as.
But
had
terrible. Donald Trump shown up, that would have been his act as well.
Of course it would, but that's not good.
So then maybe don't be a pussy and show the fuck up. Like that's
so that we can have more negativity. That's your argument.
My argument is she got hired.
Donald Trump did it.
No, my argument is she got hired to do a job. And the thing that I think irritates me the most about the way that the part of the story that bothers me the most is the way that the committee, the president of the Correspondents' Dinner, came out and threw her under the bus like they didn't know what her jokes were going to be. Maybe they didn't ask her, but they definitely...
I don't think that they did.
But they definitely, she even said when she made the pussy joke, you guys should have probably researched me a little bit more. Her shit is available. Yeah. They knew what they were getting when they asked her to be there. So I think it's
I honestly don't think they do, because she even says in her bit, she says, I know you guys were expecting me to just roast Trump. I'm not going to do that. I know you guys were expecting me to talk a ton about Russia. I'm not going to do that. I think they signed her up thinking they were going to get what they wanted, and she wasn't going to play their game. And so I think that's another reason why they're pissed at her also. It's because she might, I don't know if she did or she didn't, but she probably sold herself as, yeah, sure, I'll fucking hit Donald Trump. No, I'm not. I'm just going to fucking say whatever I want and do my bit. And I don't think that that's what they wanted. I think they really wanted to hammer the fucking Russia thing because, of course, they are. They're the media. And the Donald Trump thing. And she really didn't say much about Donald Trump, like at all. So
no,
I just don't think they got what they wanted.
I was actually surprised. And I thought that one of the jokes that I thought, because I agree with both of you that I also thought it was funny, but I thought one of the jokes that fell the flattest for me was when she was doing the having the audience say, like, she was saying, okay, we're gonna do something new. When I say Donald Trump is broke, you say, how broke is he? First of all, that's a weird environment to play that kind of, like, the audience is going to respond to me game.
It's a bad way to be like, we're the unbiased media, but we're going to join in a chant that hates Donald Trump.
Right.
But it's a bad fucking image.
But they also, those were the worst jokes of the night for me because they were all just put together weird. I also thought, where I can criticize her tastefulness in these jokes is the Southwest Airlines joke. I was like, man, that happened.
No one liked that one.
No, when she said, they said, how broke is he? She said they used him as a Southwest Airlines engine. Like, dude, that story happened last week. Somebody died.
People who don't know, the engine broke and a woman was murdered because of it. So
not
I don't know if murder is the right term,
right.
But yeah. They knew it. No, they didn't.
That engine didn't seek her out. But well,
if it was Trump, I don't know. No, but someone died, and it was too soon. And not only was it too soon, but that's just kind of a darker thing. Again, know your audience, know where you're coming from. And I know she's doubled down on her position. I fucking was brilliant, and I stand by everything. But you got to know what you're doing. So again, it seems kind of like one of those jump on the grenade martyr moments where she didn't understand the audience. She should have known. She just did it to do it and was like, look how risque I am. And it's like, no, you kind of come off looking stupid.
I do think she did put too many, like, shock moments in. Like, I didn't have a problem with the majority of her jokes, but I thought her usage of the word fuck and pussy on live TV was like,
you're on C-SPAN. You're not on HBO.
Well, and not only was she on C-SPAN, but because of what the dinner was, she was on Fox. She was on CNN. She wasn't on Fox because they were doing the dumbass rally, but she was on CNN. She was on ABC, and this is going out to people's living rooms. I don't know. Do you know what time it was? Was it late in the evening or was that?
I think it was prime time.
Yeah,
prime
time. To me that could have been.
That's why I had a big problem with when the grab him by the pussy thing happened, and they were like, Donald Trump made us say it. It's like bullshit. I can't even watch the news because my kid's in the room,
right?
And I don't. And like, you're making the choice to do that, so just say it. Like, well, he says it. It's like, that's not a good fucking excuse. You're still making decisions. You're an adult.
That too, with the grab him by the pussy thing, that was a weird. The way that they handled that, especially on CNN, because I remember that like half of the shows would play the comment and then they would say it, and then the other half would like censor them out. And I was like, well, what the fuck? Like, one show's on at 8 in.the.morning that's saying it, and then the next one's on 8:30 and it's censored, and then at 10 they're saying pussy again. Like, what is there any rhyme or reason to this?
It was the same thing with the Scaramucci Steve Bannon can suck his own dick comment. Like, some of them would censor the word suck, some of them would leave it out. Some of them, I believe, like, some of them, some of them say the word cock. Maybe that's too much. Maybe they wouldn't have.
You know what they're doing. They're doing it for maximum shock value. Be like, oh my God, look what he made me do.
Like, to go back to the Michelle Wolf thing, I loved her stand-up set, and I was not offended by any of it. I'm a pretty hard person to offend anyway, I think. Especially when it comes to comedy.
I wasn't offended, but I understood why it was offensive, and I understood why it was inappropriate. So while I personally thought this was very funny, For the most part, there were some jokes that failed, and I thought her delivery
She had some awesome jokes, though. Mike Pence is what happens when Anderson Cooper's not gay. That
was
awesome.
so funny.
That was so good.
Dude, I cracked up and couldn't stop. That shit was hilarious.
Yeah.
But again, and that joke's kind of okay. Like that's fine. But again, when you start throwing all the F-bombs and the P-bombs, and then just the fact that it was
You don't have to censor it here. People have to seek us out.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, again, the fact that it wasn't poking fun. It was, I fucking hate you. I hate you, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, because you're a lying bitch.
I did not get that feeling at all.
And I totally got that
she
feeling.
Hates liars, but she never thought she was being particularly nasty.
Yeah, but that's
to
the
her.
problem is that they're doing the Comey thing where they don't differentiate between the white lies and the big lies, and they just say everyone's bad in that administration because they tell white lies, so fuck them.
It's not
regardless
it's not white
of the
lies.
fact
It's
that
not like
everyone
she-
in the
Yeah,
Obama
but
administration
lies.
gave white lies.
Hers are not white lies, man. And there's no way that she believes any of the shit that she says. So, like,
I'm sure she doesn't. I'm sure no one does.
Because she
But
strikes me
again,
as a
we saw that
smart
during the
person.
Obama days when it was just like you can look at him. What was it, Carney? Jay
Yeah.
Carney was it? And it was
Yeah,
like you can
but
tell
again-
he fucking hates his life because he knows he's lying.
Right. And we shit on him for being a fucking liar. So
yeah. Well, again, I said the same thing back then. I said I don't think that we need this position. I think that they should go away because you're just basically sitting up there saying these lies.
But
telling
if
the
you,
talking
but here's the
points.
reason we do need that position because
We don't.
under Obama, under any president, it's the only way to know what is going on in the administration. The difference between Jay Carney spinning the truth where you can see the fuck through it and like you know that it's like it's the story but with a little twist because like the difference is
Right.
that you know
The
that
positive
Sarah Sanders, first of all, you know Donald Trump is fucking lying, and you know there's no way that she believes what she's saying. So it's different because when Jay Carney is spinning shit for Barack Obama, at least it's still semi the same story. What Sarah Sanders is doing is making up facts of her own. And it's not because she's making them up on her own. It's because she's drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. She got hired to do a job, and her job is to listen to the bullshit that comes out of our president's mouth and run with it. And so, but it doesn't feel the same as when Jay Carney did it, because at least the fucking story was semi the story under Jay Carney.
All you're changing is the frequency of the lie. That's all.
And-
it
and
just so
the other
happens
thing-
that Donald Trump lies more than Barack Obama, but every time Barack Obama lied, Jay Carney was there selling it just the same.
That's fine,
It
but
doesn't
the
matter because
reason-
that's the
the-
position.
The reason I think you don't take that position away is because that is our only way of knowing what is kind of going on if you sift through the fucking lines in the administration. Because if not for Sarah Sanders, if not for Jay Carney, if not for Sean Spicer, the only narrative that we have from the White House is the bullshit tweets that come out on his fucking page. And
Well,
that
normally
is
they don't
not
have tweets. Normally they have press releases. Most presidents before the Donald Trump age. So you still have ways of communicating.
Yeah, the
You just
problem
don't
is
have
if
to
you
be
want to
fed
ask
the
about
same-
something that's not on that press release, that's the whole point of the press secretary is that you
Yeah,
can
and then again,
ask
the
them
whole
about
problem
certain
with with the Trump administration and whatnot is that they don't fucking give a shit about what you're saying. They're gonna come in and Jim Acosta is gonna have his own fucking agenda and he's gonna come in and be a dick. And it's just everything is so toxic, and I think that was the big
or you look what
message
happened to
about-
Nikki Haley, where she made us, yes, we were going to do this, and then 2 hours later, Trump's like, no, we're not doing that anymore. Like sometimes the staff just,
Right.
honestly, I don't think they know half the time if what they're saying is even true, or even still the position
Right.
they're supposed to be taking.
Exactly. So again, I think that I think the correspondence dinner could probably go bye-bye. I think the fucking the press secretary can probably go bye-bye.
If it does, though, if the I don't think the correspondence dinner will go away. I think it will be highly
There's prominent
revamped.
Democrats that are saying like we don't need to do this anymore.
I know, but I don't think it'll go away. I think what'll happen is next year Jay Leno will be the fucking comedian, because Jay Leno is a guy that will roast both sides, not just pick
Yeah.
on one side. But
not even just roast, but poke fun. Like it's supposed to be we're gonna get together and we're gonna like each other event. Like, it's not supposed to be,
I get
fucking
that.
hate you and want to kick your family in the testicles. Like, that's not what it's supposed to be, and that's what the media's been here lately.
I get that, but that's not what the presidency is supposed to be either, and that's what it is now.
No, it's not. And so again, but it's you make it, again, you delude your own argument when you say, well, he's doing it. So at that point, it's like, well, everyone's doing it.
I get it.
So then he's got extra ammunition to be like, well, whatever,
I'm not
disagreeing.
I'm not disagreeing with your point. I think your point is right. I just think that for me personally, it was funny. I get why people are upset about the Sarah Sanders shit. I don't get, and the F-bombs and the P-bombs, but I don't get why the rest of the jokes are being looked at as a horrible thing. I thought that the majority of the 20 minutes was fine. I feel like I don't even feel like most of the jokes were mean-spirited. Like, yeah, she doesn't like
I
Trump.
Thought for sure they were.
She doesn't like Trump,
either.
but
I thought
that's
they were
not
kind
hard to
of, like,
fucking believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a difference. She doesn't just not like Trump. She hates Trump, and you can tell.
Well,
I mean, there's
how?
a difference
She didn't
there
say much
between-
about Trump.
Yeah.
No, but again, going from her background and everything like that, you know that she hates Trump. That's like having
because she works for the Daily Show, she automatically hates Trump. That's like saying that because
no, because I've listened to her comments and she's been like, I fucking hate Trump. That's why I say she hates Trump. She has said these things before, so
I don't know, man.
It's kind of hard to walk that back and be like, no, she didn't mean it, bud. She didn't mean it. She forgot about that when she stood up there.
Again, it's not like I understand what you're saying. I don't think that the majority of the 20 minutes was bad.
Well,
I think there were some definitely
and for
questionable calls. But
for someone who has exclaimed that she fucking hates Trump, she really didn't go after him as much as she could have, because there was a lot more ammunition that she could have unloaded, and I thought she was. It wasn't
and honestly,
that bad.
if she would have gone after Trump more, it would have been fine, because Trump's a dick, and everyone likes it when you go after the dick.
Yeah,
Same with Chris Christie.
So is Kellyanne Conway. So is Sarah Sanders. So is every fucking person.
But
that
not
has
really.
Been
Do
on
they
camera.
spin? Do they do political spin? Yes, they do, but they're not actually assholes. Like, you don't see Kellyanne Conway or Sarah Huckabee Sanders coming up and being like, "You're a fat piece of shit. Fuck you." They don't do that. Chris Christie does that. Fucking Rand Paul does that.
Your definition
Donald
of
Trump
asshole
does
could
that.
be different. Someone who lies blatantly to your face could be someone's definition of an asshole, and that was enough to not like
that's
someone.
fine. But again, when you can look at both sides and say, both these guys are assholes, but you're not making that distinction when you're going after people. You say, oh no, everyone on that side's horrible because they lie. Everyone on this side's fine. Just look at Trevor Noah this week, where he was just like, oh yeah, I mean, she changed. No big deal. Looking at Joy, what's her name?
Joy Reid.
For those for those homophobic remarks. It's like, it's no big deal. Whatever. Looking at what... Go ahead.
Let's go into that story now, because I actually had that written down. So I'll let you tell the story, and then we can kind of debate that as well.
So I haven't actually seen the comments, but apparently these were comments that she had said before online or whatever.
She used to have
they
a
were
blog.
Homophobic.
So she used to have a blog, and she had made some homophobic comments in 2006, and then someone discovered them, and then I think in November or December of last year, she apologized, said that she had grown up, changed her views. But now she's claiming that someone went on the Wayback Machine, where they essentially catalog old web pages, and they found her old blog, and they found all these other homophobic... I mean, she's talking about Brokeback Mountain had just come out, so it's a lot of her questioning why anybody would want to see a movie about two gay guys, and just really tone-deaf stuff. But now she claims that she didn't write these specific homophobic tweets, that her blog or the Wayback Machine was hacked, and that she has the FBI investigating it now. So it's just really weird.
Basically... It is weird, and it doesn't make any sense. And to Trevor Noah's, Noah, whatever the fuck his name is, his credit, Trevor Noah, to his credit, he did kind of call her out for that part. He was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You got hacked? He's like, you already apologized.
Right, that was my point.
I was telling Brandon that, like, had she just said, like, yes, this is part of the earlier apology, I have grown up since then, I don't, if she just lumped it in with that, no, this would not be a story.
But again, it's
the fact that she's
it's
claiming
the hypocrisy.
It's
the hypocrisy that okay, someone we like was terrible in the past, but they grew up. But anyone who says something we don't like, we need to ruin their life because there's no chance that they're going to change. We fucking hate them now.
From the coverage I've seen people going after Joy Reid very hard for what she's.
Oh yeah, and I'm glad. It's the establishment Republican, or I'm sorry, the establishment Democrats and the comedian and like the media type Democrats who are rallying to her side and just kind of brushing it off. Actual progressives are pissed. And I think rightly so.
As you should be.
And again, I think this is the Democratic Party alienating more people. And because if you stand for ideals in these absolutes.
Let's be fair, too. She's not representative of the Democratic Party. She's a fucking pundit.
Kind of. She's on MSNBC.
She's a pundit on liberal trash media. Like, she's not indicative
yeah, but she's
of
pretty
the
important.
Democratic
That's like
Party.
saying, Rush Limbaugh doesn't mean anything to the conservative movement. Yeah, he does. He's fucking huge. She's pretty huge,
comparing Joy Reid and her reach to Rush Limbaugh, or at least her celebrity status to Rush Limbaugh, isn't fair either. Like, compare her to Alex Jones.
No one's as big as no one's as big as Rush Limbaugh because he's the fucking biggest, obviously.
Right.
We just said no body shaming, man. What the hell?
Buzzing.
See, that goes to further my point. You wouldn't have said it about Joy Reid, but you said it about Rush Limbaugh.
I know. See, God,
double standards
all around. No, but again, to me, it's just it's bad narrative all the way around. Where it looks like people just want to give everyone a pass, whether it comes down to Michelle Wolf or it comes down to Joy Reid. Where Democrats right now are just saying, "Don't look over here," whatever, because Trump's still terrible.
The great thing about this is that she started an FBI investigation. So if she is lying, there is no forgetting about this because that's a Martha Stewart lying to the FBI crime. And that's
she's already changed her position. So at first she said I was hacked, and then she changed it to I believe I was hacked. Yeah. And then she changed it to I had reason to believe I was hacked. So she's already changed it 3 times. Like, it's what it is.
I will bite back a little bit on the "don't look over here" statement because I will tell you, the audience, do look over here at Michelle Wolf's at her bit at the Correspondents' Dinner because, admittedly, by all 3 of us, it was funny. So don't get your panties in a twist over.
Don't let anyone tell you how it makes you feel. If you think it was over the line, then whatever. You think it's over the line. I personally didn't think it was anything terrible, but I did think it was inappropriate. But that's just my fucking opinion.
That's fair.
And that's all it's made up of. It's just individual opinions.
Yeah, that's fair. I get it, but I do think I think the biggest part of that story for me, again, I said it earlier, the biggest problem for me, and I know that we've gone back and forth on whether we're doing it in this conversation, but it's the hypocrisy of the outrage. Like, you can't have it both ways. You can't be outraged when a comedian says something and not be outraged when the president that you voted for said it. Like, they do have different job descriptions, and one of them should be held to a higher standard than the other. So,
Yeah. But the problem I have, and the other thing that really irritated me was the truth to power statement, which didn't make any fucking sense to me. I kept seeing a bunch of liberals coming out and saying she was speaking truth to power. And when did she say anything that was, like, she told jokes?
Well, first
of
all,
did she say something that was truthful?
That's a useless statement that means nothing. That's like that's such a.
It's got a definition, buddy.
Yeah,
Isn't that what
right here to address facts. It's been around for a very long time, but it's to address facts to an authority or a superior. Which, first off, like, not a superior authority, maybe, but by who? She wasn't even really talking about Trump.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
like,
what did she say that was? What did she say that was truthful? I don't get it because they keep saying it, and like I saw Dave Chappelle come out, and he was saying truth to power, and then so was Trevor Noah. She was saying truth to power.
She said a lot of things that were truthful, like Sarah Huckabee burns facts. That's truthful.
Not really. It depends on what you're looking at, because again, she sells some things that she says that are true. They don't want to hear. Does she lie? Of course she does. If she comes out and says he has the biggest, obviously that was Sean Spicer, but you know what I'm saying. Anytime it comes back up, these little tiny lies, yeah, absolutely. But is she lying about everything? No, she isn't. There's some things that she disagree about. She's not 100% just telling lies. And so again, it's just.
You haven't watched one of these briefings for a while, have you?
I get the highlights because I see him every day, but
check that shit out.
I don't know.
She's a lion. Something.
I'm sure she is, but again, I remember whenever Jay Carney was doing it, I was like, he's lying. I'm not going to say that Jay Carney's a 100% liar and all he does is lie, but he definitely lied.
Right.
So,
all right. Well, let's move on from the correspondence dinner now. One of the newer stories that's in the news as of right now is the Mueller investigation's leaked list of, I believe it's 49 questions for Donald Trump. And Frank, do you have an article on that goes through some of those?
Don't read it. It was Comey.
Yeah.
No.
So
first of all, I'm not even talking about who leaked it yet, but what irritates me is that Donald Trump, in the way that he does every fucking time any story comes out, is he starts to write his own narrative. None of these questions are about collusion. Actually, yes, there are. There's considerably a decent portion of these that are about collusion, and so the idea that these 49 questions have nothing to do with what the investigation is about is bullshit. There absolutely is at least 10 questions that I read personally that are about collusion, asking him about the Trump Tower meeting, asking him about his trip to Russia in 2013. Those are all to figure out whether there or not there was collusion. So
I always thought that. I don't think that's more collusion. I think that's more obstruction of justice.
Not a 2013 meeting in Russia. That's not about obstruction of justice.
Because if he lies, because they already concluded that she didn't have ties with Russia in that capacity, that she might have known a few Russian officials, but she wasn't under direct orders from Putin or anything. The idea behind that is obstruction of justice, because if he lied about it, then he's obstructing an investigation. That's what they're looking for here, is obstruction.
Well, and they very well may find it, but do you have...
if he lied, then you're going to have a Martha Stewart type situation where you can't fucking do that.
So what do you have over there, Frank? A few of these questions?
I have all the questions. They pretty much get lumped into various categories. One category is about Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor. Another group of the questions relate to James Comey, and then specifically the firing of James Comey. That's a bulk of the questions are actually about that. Jeff Sessions has quite a few questions related to him. The campaign coordination with Russia is another huge segment. So they kind of bounce all over the place a little bit, but they hit on both themes of obstruction of justice, and I would think they also show a little bit of them attempting to still prove collusion, or at least, I don't know, prove it. But it's more interesting to me where these came from. Collusion. You said that. What did you say, that Comey was the leaker, Mitch? Is that what you
believe? Here's who.
He said in his book, he was P.S. I'm the leaker.
I had read an interesting theory that this list is not probably from Mueller. It's probably from Trump's team, who've drafted a list based on the talking with Giuliani talking to Mueller. This is what they think the likely questions are.
Yeah,
because
I would
a former lawyer worked with Mueller said that this does not sound like a lawyer writing this. The way the questions are phrased, it sounds.
To be
more
fair, Giuliani is most certainly a lawyer. So
he was a lawyer 30 years ago.
That wouldn't make any sense.
He was.
But shit, it's not like you forget that shit.
No, but his argument would be that it would be the aides who are compiling this from notes about Giuliani's meetings and stuff.
Absolutely bet that Jay Sekulow leaked this. The president's lawyer, I would absolutely believe. Because then they can write their own narrative, which he does on Twitter every morning at 5. I don't see that this because, and I know that we can't just take people's words on it, Mitch, but the fact of the matter is we have not seen any leaks from the Mueller team at all. So there's historical reason to believe that this didn't come from somebody on the Mueller team. We've only seen...
I don't care about the historical reason. I think the practical reason makes more sense, because this wouldn't help this would help Donald Trump. if these questions leaked out and he didn't know them already,
right?
Like he would have just now he has a heads up going into any sort of interview or even just written statements.
But it doesn't matter because if you look at how the questions are written, if he lies, he's perjuring himself, and if he pleads the fifth, then he can still be re-asked these questions by Congress and in an impeachment proceeding. So, like, pleading the fifth,
he's not going to plead the fifth.
Would not be smart.
He should plead the fifth, but he's not going to do it.
He should not plead the fifth because what he would be trying to do if he pled the fifth is he would be trying to get some form of immunity, and the special counsel is not going to fucking grant that. So
no, it's the same with Hillary Clinton. Like, she pled the fifth because she didn't want to get incriminated.
She did not
incriminate
plead
herself.
the fifth. She didn't remember that. Those are two different things. She also wasn't under oath, so there would be no reason for her to plead the fifth. He will be under
which makes
oath.
Perfect sense.
So and they're talking now the idea of Bob Mueller subpoenaing him to answer these questions. If he pleads the fifth, he's guilty in the court of public opinion. We already fucking know that, and and the Democrats are going to run with that. And if we are wrong or right about whatever happens with Congress this year, pleading the fifth would be the stupidest fucking thing that he could do. I don't
What if
see it being a good
would
thing.
you lose respect for Mueller's investigation if they subpoenaed him to testify like a month before the midterms? Would that be seen as political?
Yeah, I think it would be seen as political, but I think everybody already has their sports team now. I wouldn't personally lose respect for him because I told you, and I've told you guys 100 times on the show, that what stuck with me about Bob Mueller is the way that both sides came out and said, if we were going to have anybody spearheading this investigation, this is the guy who has the most integrity. This is the guy. That's what they really meant before they picked their sports team. So no, I don't believe. I mean, you and I talked about it the other day on the phone, Mitch, that I said, well, what if they're just waiting to see what happens in November? And if the Democrats take over, then Mueller brings forth the charge.
Itself is a political decision. And
it
the whole
is,
point of
but
Comey's book was to not be political.
But your argument back to me was, I don't see Bob Mueller being that guy. I think if he has it, he'll come out when he has it. So I don't see Bob Mueller making these political moves. I could see the media.
But what if he does? That's what I'm going down the hypothetical highway right now. Does that change your opinion of the investigation?
No.
Because it's not something like the same thing where you're saying like it can't be Mueller's team because he just doesn't leak. What if it is? Does that change your opinion of it?
No, if it is, the only way that my opinion changes is that I think he's dumb. All right, let's move into these last couple of things that I have for you. Just a couple of quick stories. One of these that we talked about, it's probably been about a year, I think, ago, but it's a local story. Remember in University City, which is just a smaller town in St. Louis.
I live by there.
Oh, what's that?
I live right next to there.
Yes, you do, actually.
As do I.
But
No,
and so
not
does
far.
Frank. Yeah, I don't. I'm in the burbs, homie.
Yeah, you ain't cool.
But anyway, there was a story a year ago about there's a Jewish cemetery down in University City, and about a year ago, like 150 and 200 headstones got toppled. And it was a big story even on national media. Mike Pence came to help with the cleanup, and Governor Eric Greitens was there. This was before he was raping people. Well, it was after, but it was before we knew about it. So the thought was that this was an anti-Semitic happening, that it's a Jewish, and there's a very large Jewish community down there in University City. So to have a Jewish cemetery defaced, one would expect that was the reason. Well, it turns out that they've caught the guy now, and who admitted to doing it because he was arrested for something else, an unrelated charge. But his name I don't have pulled up in front of me right now. But the story is, we'll link to it. The story is that basically a guy gets into an argument, a resident in the area there gets into an argument with his buddy. He was under the influence of some drugs and alcohol. It was at like 2:30 in the morning, and he gets kicked out of his car. Or maybe don't quote me on the time, but it was in the middle of the night. So the passenger gets kicked out of the car. He's drunk, he's high, and he's pissed off, and he has to walk through the cemetery to get back home. And because he's mad at his friend for kicking him out of the car, he topples almost 200 headstones. Like, what the fuck? That is literally what happened. It's no show, like, it has nothing to do with religion or ethnicity or anything like that.
Just idiocy.
That's yeah.
Yeah, right. They found out it was Barack Obama. They're just saving
What's
face.
really upsetting,
yeah, right.
I'm not
is
fooled.
that it seems like they only found out because the guy decided to tell them, which is like, I really wish our
no.
Was something else happen?
Here's
weird.
how he left a jacket there in the cemetery with his DNA on it, and then he got picked up for I can't remember if it was an unrelated charge. I don't want to throw shade at this guy. He's already dealing with like $25,000 bond. But so basically that's what happened though. He left his jacket there. They'd been investigating this case since it happened, and in December, because this happened in March of 2017, or February of 2017, when the headstones were toppled, and in December of 2017 he was picked up on an unrelated charge, and they matched his DNA to the DNA on the jacket, and they asked him about it, and that was the story he told. Yeah, I did do it because I was mad, I was drunk, and I was high, and I was pissed off at my friend for kicking me out of my car, so I took it out on the headstones.
I did like we all do, and I committed a hate crime. Isn't that the standard reaction?
Right. That's how we do it.
Although,
according to Facebook, everything
that is how we
hate
do it in
speech.
Missouri, because that's not an uncommon story for us.
I don't think this will qualify as a hate crime though, because the intent.
I would hope not.
It had nothing to do with any religious affiliation or anything like that. It was just a dumb drunk guy doing dumb drunk guy shit. Like,
right.
But so I don't think he'll be charged, but he is being charged with a hefty vandalism fine. And like I said, I think that his bond was at like $25,000 or something like that.
I mean, how much damage did he cause?
Hashtag free drunk
guys. Does anybody
guys.
remember how much damage was actually done to, headstones are not cheap.
It was a shit ton.
Headstones are expensive.
It was, yeah.
How much did it cost to fly fucking,
Pence
what's his name out here? Yeah.
I think he did it for the...
I'm just saying, it all adds up.
Illuminati, is that what you're saying? So it's all connected.
Illuminati.
I have a feeling that guy won't be out of jail for a while.
Probably not.
And, come on, dude, dick move. Even if you are mad at your friend, what the fuck?
What do those people have
why'd
to do
you go
with it?
through the cemetery?
Yeah.
Right. And why would you go through a cemetery?
Dude,
I'm
If
sorry.
drunk, a cemetery is the last place I want to be. That's fucking creepy.
Shit.
Dude, if only would have happened today, we have, ride-sharing bikes now that you can take. He would have had a ride.
Right. Yeah, did you see that story too? People are all mad because apparently people are really rude about those bikes, and so they've started this program a couple months ago in St. Louis, and now when people are riding the bikes, they're just throwing them on the side of the street or hanging them on fences or shit, and people are like, dude, what the fuck? That is kind of...
This is supposed to be nice. It is kind of a, this is why we can't have nice things.
It is.
I mean, this is why... if you go to Denver, they have bike kiosk where you rent the bikes from and turn them in so they can, keep track of the bikes.
Yeah.
It seems like a little bit of a better system. So, but anyway, all right, let's move forward into the last story of the week, the one that I really didn't even want to give any time because Kanye West is an idiot. But
what are you talking about? He's got dragon blood.
I thought you said this was news. This has been known, hasn't it?
Yeah, no shit. Well, it's news on Fox all week because Fox hates Hollywood unless somebody says something that they like. But let's be real about Kanye West's love for Donald Trump. He has 2 albums that are dropping this month. That's what it's about. And what is hilarious
Why would
to
he
me,
alienate his entire fan base before putting his albums
because
out?
he's fucking crazy. Have you kept up with Kanye West?
I don't know if we have a lot of
years?
crossover.
No.
Mitch. I don't know if there's a lot of crossover with our audiences.
Yeah. I don't understand.
He's actually losing his mind. He married a Kardashian. Come on.
What's weird is that he makes the
but-
Kardashian seem like the reasonable one in the relationship.
No shit. Like
Yeah.
Like I actually, and I said it before, I don't know if I said it on the show, but I actually think that like Kanye West, and I'm not saying this because of his Trump thing, I've been saying this for a couple of years now, that Kanye West is going to be a tragedy that we all saw coming. Like we've seen this guy like breaking away from reality for a long time. Again, this has nothing to do with his opinions on Trump. He's just like this guy. He asked Mark Zuckerberg for like $500 million or some shit so that he could make shoes. Like he's not there, and like he does think of himself as a god. And I think that like Kanye West is gonna be an avoidable tragedy that we will be talking about sometime in the next 10 or 15 years. But
I don't doubt it.
This doesn't, but this to me is nothing more than him attempting to sell albums. And I don't know why he chose the Fox News crowd to sell to, because the crossover doesn't seem realistic there. But what's funnier to me is the hypocrisy that we talked about a few minutes ago, in that now all liberals hate Kanye West because he said something about Trump, and all conservatives are like jerking off because, oh my God, he's the smartest rapper ever. And
oh God, here I go.
Like, and I just like, this is the same guy who said George Bush hates black people. Let's not forget about that, Fox listeners.
They already forgot.
So, I don't know.
I don't give a shit, because I heard one song from Kanye West probably about 13 years ago. It was "Diamonds Are Forever," and that song sucks. And ever since then, I was like, whatever. I don't even care what you do.
Kanye West sucks. But here's one tweet of his that I want to address, because it bothered me, and it had it did have something to do with Trump, but it's just kind of like, I feel like Kanye tweets the same way Trump does. He's just like, he just kind of goes off a whim here, and like he just throws shit out there. But something that bothered me was a shot that he took at Obama, and it wasn't because he took a shot at Obama, is because what he said didn't make any fucking sense. This is Kanye West. Barack Obama was president for 8 years. What did he do for black people in Chicago? I don't know if you're aware of what the president's job is, Kanye West, but Donald Trump hasn't done dick for St. Louis. That's not his job. That's the mayor's job. So take it up with the guy who fucking actually controls what you're complaining about. It doesn't make any sense to me to say, what did Barack Obama do for Chicago?
Whatever, but what did he do?
He wasn't the mayor. I don't know. Let's talk about what Barack Obama did or didn't do for Syria. That makes a lot more sense. But
there you go.
Because that argument is too easy to apply anywhere. What has Donald Trump done for Des Moines, Iowa?
Egypt.
What has Donald Trump done for St. Charles, Missouri? That's not fair.
He came to us. He came and visited.
And visited and hosted. He hosted $125,000 a plate dinner. That's cool.
Well, you asked.
That's fine. But what I'm saying is, like, it's not a fair complaint. You can apply that to anybody anywhere. And Kanye, shut the fuck up.
I mean,
like,
he's allowed to have his opinions, but I'm also allowed to think his music is terrible. So, we're at a stalemate.
He is terrible.
I think the worst thing is
he's really, really bad.
The fact that people freak out, they freak out over his opinions. Like, yeah, he's an idiot. So, like, let's move on. A percentage of our population are going to be stupid.
Right.
It shouldn't shock us anymore.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you. I just think it's a hilarious story that Fox is literally running every tweet that Kanye says now. Like, that's all Fox can get off on this week. And I'm just like, it's so ironic to see the guys that are like, ugh, Hollywood elite. Oh, here's what Kanye said. Like, what?
Yep.
Shut up. Anyway, that's my rant on Kanye West.
Yeah.
I gave him more time than I wanted to on the show.
My takeaway is everything is stupid, and I have lost faith in everyone.
Except James Comey's ability to write a good book. He should really be like the next. Like if Tom Clancy needs like a successor or something.
Yeah, he needs some Jack Reacher books.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what he needs to start doing.
Right.
Get on that.
Anyway,
publishing.
I think that's a good way to wrap up episode 50, right? So I do want to take a moment real quick to I had teased at the beginning of the show that we do have an announcement to make that we're really excited about. If you do enjoy listening to us and you don't want to listen to us just bitch about politics all the time, Frank has started a new podcast, and I don't want to steal the light, so I'm going to let you explain it, Frank.
Yeah, so you kind of were the precursor to it. Back in episode 41, possibly, we had talked about the first all-women's Royal Rumble in the WWE. And your constant talking about wrestling got me back into my 10-year-old self and started watching it again. So we started a wrestling podcast where it's a little less heavy than the political stuff, but we just pretty much talk and bitch in the same manner about current wrestling events.
Yeah, but if you can imagine, though, like with me being a part of that show, which I'm very excited to be a part of, politics still gets slipped in from time to time.
It was about 7 minutes in,
like
and
wrestling.
You had made a Trump reference. I was very proud.
Yeah, I did.
Right.
I did. So tell us where to find that, Frank.
So I will actually link to it in the show notes, but it's if you just search Body Slammed is the name of the podcast. It'll be pretty searchable. I will link to our Twitter, our Facebook, the actual feed itself. Everything will be in the info if you want to find us. Or just search for us on any podcast player, and you should find us.
Right, absolutely. And Mitch, you're more than welcome to be a part of that show if you stop being a nerd and hating wrestling. So
Sorry, guys. I think I'm going to continue hating wrestling. So
that's fine.
It's actually
Just
a
know
large
that-
part of what
that
the
you're the weird
podcast
one.
is. The podcast is mostly us
Right.
hating wrestling too. So.
I'm not opposed to showing up and being like, so whose underwear? What are we doing here? What are we looking at?
Yeah. Anyway, I was going to go into some of the things that you've done with my action figures, but I'll save that for the wrestling podcast.
Thank you.
So anyway, on that note, let's call it an episode. One more announcement I guess I do want to make. We are going to take, basically, with the way that our schedules have gone for the last really a couple months, we've kind of been not as weekly as we would have liked to have been in the beginning, and I think we're just going to kind of take that format and run with it now. So we are going to take 2 weeks off here, so probably like the middle of May is when we'll shoot our next episode, and then from there on out, at least for the time being, I think that we're thinking it's smarter to kind of turn this into a bi-weekly show than a weekly show for a lot of reasons. I mean, we've got things in our personal
Scheduling.
life. Yeah, I mean, Mitch, you're doing school, and I have kids, little babies.
I have another podcast to occupy my time.
Right. Yeah, so I think
I play a lot of D&D.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
shit.
true. Yeah, you gotta get that.
I think it makes more sense to do bi-weekly, and then we'll get the biggest stories, but I also don't think we need to cover every single little tiny story throughout the course of whatever. So we're going to try that format going forward, see how that does, and then, if we decide to change that in the future, obviously we will make that announcement when the time comes. But I think at least for the time being, that's the plan going forward. So I think that's all that I have on announcements for this one. We'll actually link to the Body Slammed podcast on the Facebook and Twitter account too, after these episodes drop, so be on the lookout for that. And then, follow us on Twitter, on Facebook at TDAP 2017. Shows will be available bi-weekly on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever podcasts are found. And yeah, I make sure to review us on iTunes. We'd love those. And we will, we'll be back in a couple weeks, and we'll bring you more of the biggest stories. So until then, here it is, your alternative fact of the week.
It's like that old saying, if a tree falls in the woods, how do we get Kellyanne under that tree?